Hello and welcome to NPC. Today it stands for Next Portable Cooler because it's 40 degrees in Rome, and I bought a portable handheld cooler from Amazon that blows fresh air in my face, and it's so nice. I'm one of your hosts, Federico Vitici, and I'm joined as always by Mr. John Boris. Hello, John.
Hello. I wish I had a portable cooler, but I may have to follow suit on that. Okay.
Yes, this was $50 on Amazon, so it's a handheld after all. So we can talk about it on the show.
Yeah,
we are joined by returning in the United States of America on July 4th of all days, Mr. Brendon Bigley. Hello, Brendon.
On the 4th of July, he turns up.
Yes. Hello, I'm back. I was this close to buying one of those in Tokyo, by the way. Like, everyone in Tokyo has those. The other thing that I think you'd really love, Federico, and maybe if you can find one, you should buy one. But one of the things that all of the crossing guards and security officers and stuff wear in Japan are these vests that have those built into them.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen those.
So they're constantly blowing cool air around your body. They're like little inflatable people walking around.
Oh my God. Okay.
It's awesome.
I had no idea that such
that would be
existed.
a look for you, Federico. That would be a really good look.
Sure.
They're pretty cool.
So we're obviously very happy to have you back, Brendon. We hope that you had a really good time in Japan.
Sure did.
I enjoyed the videos on YouTube, especially the store reviews. That was a really fun format. You should go check it out on the Wavelengths YouTube channel. Really cool videos.
I have at least one more short form one in the works, and then one big long form wrap up of everything in the works.
Nice.
Which will be fun.
Nice. We have a pretty chunky topic to talk about today, which is the Nintendo Switch 2 dock and my adventures with the Nintendo Switch 2 dock, which will take place in two parts. Part 1 will be in the regular show, and Part 2 will be in NPC XL for our Patreon subscribers. I have been up to no good, as the kids say. But before we get to that, we have a handful of news items to cover. John, can you tell us about this, what's likely going to be a very expensive SD Express card for the Nintendo Switch 2?
Yeah, I thought it was worth mentioning because this is the very first time that I've seen a full terabyte microSD Express card for the Switch 2. This is
1 terabyte. 1 terabyte.
Yes,
micro
1 full
Express.
terabyte. Yes, I think I have 512 in my Switch 2, and that was pretty expensive as it was. And sometimes it's hard to find now, but you can get this company called Team Group is coming out.
Team Group.
Yes.
Okay.
Coming out with a 1 terabyte model. Now, I've never heard of Team Group. I have no idea if they make good cards or not, but it probably means the writing on the wall is there and that other companies will be coming out with 1 terabyte soon too. So, and there's no pricing yet, but yeah, Federico's right. It'll probably cost, I don't know, $200+, I would think, probably. Maybe $250
at the very least. Yeah,
at the very least. I was gonna say $350, but we'll see. Team Group sounds like a fake brand on Amazon, by the way.
Right? Team Group Incorporated.
Team Group Incorporated.
Enterprises.
Is Team
LTD.
LTD LCC. Yeah.
Team Group has the same energy of King Cable, by the way. We're gonna talk about in NPC XL. I am going to talk about the successor to the King Cable. Which is
Emperor Cable.
Totally different name, totally different vibe, equally strange name. We'll talk about that later. I wanted to also bring to the show a potential contender to the throne of small Android gaming tablets.
Yes, this looks very nice.
So we've mentioned many times on the show the Lenovo Legion Tab, as it's called in the Western markets.
Or Gen 3, I think.
Gen 3, or as it's called in China, the version that I have, the Y700, which goes by year in China. I have the 2024 version. The 2025 version is now also out. We mentioned this most recently a few episodes ago when we talked about the Lenovo G9 gamepad, which lets you turn the Lenovo Legion Tab into a quasi-ROG Ally. It's a controller with the shape of a ROG Ally almost, but you put the tablet inside. Well, that controller just shipped for me from Gizco this morning, so it's coming.
Nice.
But I wanted to talk about a different Android tablet from the folks over at REDMAGIC. We have also mentioned this company before. They are well known for gaming phones. Remember, I used to have the REDMAGIC 9 Pro, I think, at some point. They have the 10 Pro now out, but they're also getting into the small tablet space with the REDMAGIC Astra. So the Astra is a 9-inch tablet with 165 Hz refresh rate display, OLED display, running the Snapdragon 8 Elite. Now, this is a powerful Android gaming tablet, and unlike the Lenovo Legion Tab, I was checking out this ETA Prime video, sort of first impressions. There's a bunch of others on YouTube. In tradition with other REDMAGIC hardware, this one has active cooling. So in the back of the device, there's like this very gamery looking strip of like LEDs and a small fan. There's obviously like the usual stuff inside, like vapor chamber, but there's a proper fan, and you can obviously control the speed of the fan. I used to have this in the REDMAGIC 9 Pro a couple of years ago, and that fan is small, but also can go surprisingly fast. Now, obviously, I continue to be somewhat skeptical of the stability of the 8 Elite series of chips, especially when it comes to high-end emulation. The Adreno GPU drivers have been getting better for the 8 Elite. I tend to personally prefer still the classic like generation of like Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, especially when you want to go with really stable drivers for GameCube and PS2. Like I can run my Lenovo tablet, which has a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. I can run GameCube at like 6x resolution, no problem. You have really, really stable Adreno drivers for that sort of family of chips at this point. The 8 Elite has been getting better. And I mean, if you take a look at the performance that ETA Prime has been getting out of this tablet, it's quite impressive. The active cooling is interesting. I can tell you, it's not really necessary. Like when I play Twilight Princess in 4K, 5X or 6X, and 4K textures, it's not like that tablet is getting hot or I mean, it gets kind of warm. So I'm not really sure about the need for active cooling, but hey, it looks cool. It's, gamery. Why not?
Yeah, it's got a couple limitations, I guess, are worth shouting out, which are, for instance, it has Wi-Fi 6 instead of Wi-Fi 7, which I think Lenovo has Wi-Fi 7. And it also has no microSD storage. So although it does come in different flavors with different amounts of storage, all the way up to a terabyte, I think it is. Yeah, terabyte for $899. This thing ranges from, there's a $699 model and a $549 model too. And there's different amounts of RAM in them as well.
Not having SD card storage really, I think, is the nail in the coffin for me.
Yeah,
considering it.
Yeah, I think so too. Because then you're just stuck with buying like something with more storage, and the prices go up pretty fast here from the base model on up to the high end model.
Yeah, exactly.
This is OLED, which is a nice bump compared to what the Legion Tab has. But I can tell you the Legion Tab is basically the same display. It's an IPS display, same calibration as the Legion Go, which means it's a really vibrant LCD IPS display. But this one is OLED, so you got your true blacks and those OLED colors. I'm going to keep an eye on this one. I'm not in the market. I'm totally fine with my Legion Tab from last year. But it's nice to see, I think, REDMAGIC sort of exploring this space. I wonder how long is left until REDMAGIC gets into XR glasses. But that's going to be a separate conversation for a little later in the show and beyond. John, what's going on with the Ayn Odin 2?
Well, there's some speculation that an Ayn Odin 3 might be on the way because there is at least one model that is sold out on the Ayn website. So, I mean,
the base model, like the base Ayn Odin 2, if you just want that, it is out of stock. The Mini still in stock, the Portal still in stock, but I think it is very suspicious and weird that the 2 is out of stock because that's just never happened before.
Right. That's a good point. I mean, it's absolutely true. And that's the one that I think most people gravitate towards if you're starting out, on kind of the handheld hobbies. So it is, some smoke, whether there's fire there in terms of a 3, who knows? But I thought it was a good time to maybe ask you guys what you think a 3, what would you want to see in a 3? What might actually be in a 3 that would cause you to consider buying one? How about you, Brendon?
Man, I feel like OLED is a no-brainer, right? Like at the base model, Ayn Odin 3 having OLED would be huge, I think. Basically, most of the ergonomic and performance improvements and design improvements we've seen from the Portal, in particular, if they made their way to the 3, that's really what would do it for me. I still am kind of on the side of chipset wise, like I think we're kind of good. Like they'll probably put a better chip in it when they release it, definitely.
Right.
But like people are still squeezing unbelievable amounts of power out of the base Odin 2, not to mention the Pro. So the power side of it doesn't really matter as much to me. It's really just like, can we get the battery life still at like an unbelievably high number as per usual on top of a better screen? And then that would kind of do it, right? Like this is the only device where I would really be like, I would love OLED, or I'd love 120 hertz refresh rate or whatever. I think those are the only improvements that I really need. I think the Odin 2 is an amazing, amazing device that I was still recommending to people until it sold out. So
Right.
I don't know what else I'd really want out of it.
How about you, Federico?
I would say OLED. I would say Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, 2 USB-C ports. I would really like to start seeing sort of like the Legion tab with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. You can do two full-speed USB-C ports, no problem. And Wi-Fi 7. That's what I would really like to see. So performance-wise, Wi-Fi and Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, I don't really think they gotta go with the Elite, especially if they want to keep the price consistent with the Odin 2. And then better display, OLED, and 2 USB-C ports. That would be extra nice.
Yeah, USB-C, 2 USB-C ports is a good call, Federico. I think I think the more we can get that into handhelds in general, the better, because it really does open up more possibilities.
Yeah, we'll see. I really hope. I mean, Ayn has been pretty quiet after the release of the Portal. Obviously, with the tariffs and everything going on right now, there's also maybe it's just a matter of supply chain that the base model Odin 2 is sold out. But maybe there's something there. We'll see. But they've been keeping quiet. That's for sure.
It's not like they're not going to make a 3. It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen at some point. Is it now?
And the 2's been around for a while now. What has it been, like 2 years maybe?
Almost
at least 2 years.
Approaching 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's going on with Netflix and indie games?
Just a lot of them are going away. I mean, I thought it was worth mentioning this because I think, at the end, this is something Brendon and I talked about a long time ago, but, Netflix really came out of the gate with a series of games that you get as part of your Netflix subscription that spanned a whole gamut of genres, but in particular, someone there had very good taste for indie games, the kind of games that I think the three of us love. And a lot of those now, unfortunately, are going away. I mean, we've seen reports over the last several months that Netflix has reorganized its game division. People have come and gone. They've talked about how they're going to do more of the IP tie-ins with their TV shows and certain kinds of games that work with that. And I think we're just seeing the evidence of it now that as well as some games have done on there, the indies are the ones that are going to end up falling by the wayside over time.
A lot of these games are going to make their way to the App Store proper afterwards, which is, I think, a positive. And a lot of these already are on the App Store proper, which is also a positive. But it's definitely a bummer to watch both Netflix and Apple bail from this space. Like I think that the growing investment in indie titles for mobile was a really positive step, and in my opinion, felt like slowly getting closer to, I think, what most people want in terms of like Apple specifically taking gaming seriously, which is a thing we've talked about a million times before. But Netflix, I think, coming out of the gate and having such strong taste lead their charge into gaming, and then watching them like kind of turn tail and bail from that for whatever internal metrics reasons that will never become public is definitely a bummer. But like just reading through some of the games that you're losing, Braid, Death's Door, Hades, Katana Zero, all 3 Monument Valley games, Case of the Golden Idol, Rise of the Golden Idol,
Damn. Oh, wow.
Raji,
lot.
an Ancient Epic. Yeah, I mean, like, it's so many great games that are just going bye-bye. It's
Bye.
just sad. Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I want to start approaching our Nintendo Switch 2 dock conversation.
Okay.
Before we get to that, I want to introduce you to this upcoming kind of strange accessory for the Nintendo Switch 2 dock, which I'm
I
not
saw
sure.
this
I'm not sure
morning.
how it's gonna work. So there's an upcoming, launching soon Kickstarter campaign by the folks at Retro Fighters. They have done Kickstarter campaigns before for retro-inspired controllers. They have something that is called the Battle Dock. The Battle Dock is a Switch 2 dock adapter for GameCube controllers. This looks ostensibly like a series of customizable faceplates for the Nintendo Switch 2 dock for the front that have essentially the front of GameCube. So 4 slots for game controllers and 2 slots for the memory cards. Now, obviously, the memory card slots are fake, but I'm wondering about these GameCube adapters. Now, you look at the photos, and it looks like this is a modified faceplate that allows you, in theory, to plug in wired GameCube controllers and use them with your Nintendo Switch 2. Now, you may be wondering how, and I'm also wondering how, because this Kickstarter campaign is not live yet. But if you take a look at the photos, they are really light on specs. My assumption here is that this faceplate will have 4 slots for the controllers, and there's going to be a USB cable that is a USB-A cable that is going to plug into the USB-A port of the Nintendo Switch 2 dock, and that will allow you to use your GameCube controllers with the Nintendo Switch. That is my assumption. I cannot shake the feeling that this thing looks kind of fake, but we'll see, I guess.
It does. Yeah, it's talk about a thick dock. I mean, the dock was already thick, but now you're going to add a faceplate that has to plug in a GameCube controller,
which is not
dongle.
a small connect. It's not a small connector.
No, it's
GameCube
pretty
controller.
It's chunky.
Yeah, it's chunky. So it's going to have to be pretty thick. And I can't think of any way it could work either, Federico, other than connecting to the USB-A. So
you got to have a short USB-A cable that sort of wraps around the Switch dock and plugs into the one of the USB-A ports. That would be my assumption. In any case, that's coming soon. We'll see what they do. But speaking of the Nintendo Switch 2 dock, there's been a series of, I don't want to call them, they're kind of controversies lately about how the Nintendo Switch 2 dock actually works. And why is it that over the past few weeks, people have been struggling to find third-party replacements for the Nintendo Switch 2 dock, as well as to get XR glasses to work as external monitors for the Nintendo Switch 2. And I've been monitoring this situation on Reddit, on a bunch of different places, and The Verge published a comprehensive story. They actually got a USB power delivery monitor. This is like one of those dongles that basically acts as a middleman between your USB host and your USB device. So you can see on a computer, you then run a separate cable from this dongle into a computer, and you can see the stream of messages that are sent between 2 USB devices to make sense of what actual connection they are negotiating and what data packets they are basically exchanging, right? So after all, people saying, we cannot offer a Nintendo Switch 2 dock replacements. All of your previous dongles will not work. The folks at XReal were commenting, we think our glasses are not going to work with the Nintendo Switch 2 because it's a software issue. And then later they backtracked and said, well, no, actually we need to sell you a separate accessory that is going to be called the XReal Neo, which is going to be a little puck with USB video input. Like the folks online were like, what's going on? And so The Verge did some really excellent digging here. The short version is that Nintendo being Nintendo, they are technically speaking, following the USB PD power delivery spec and USB video out spec. USB video is obviously based on, it's called DisplayPort over USB. So it's a DisplayPort signal that gets converted to USB. If you have an iPad with a USB-C port and you plug it into a computer, that's DisplayPort over USB-C. It's a pretty established standard. But Nintendo modified this with some custom data happening behind the scenes. So The Verge, in using this USB adapter, I think I actually have one of those lying around somewhere.
I do too, actually.
Yeah. They found that the Nintendo Switch 2 console and the Nintendo Switch 2 dock, when negotiating a connection and exchanging the usual data packets the USB devices use, also add 30 to 40 custom, they're called vendor-specific messages. These are random strings of text that basically act as a custom handshake. It's like a secret handshake between the Nintendo Switch 2 console and the dock, where they're saying, oh yeah, I know who you are. We're exchanging this secret code between us so that only you, Switch 2 dock, can work with me, Switch 2 console. And obviously that's a problem, right, for third-party manufacturers, because that's software that is, technically speaking, proprietary to Nintendo to an extent, because you can, if you have one of these devices, you can actually inspect what's going on.
Yeah.
And so when I read this article, I was like, challenge accepted. I want to look into this. So The Verge reported that there's only one third-party Nintendo Switch 2 dock that currently works with the Nintendo Switch 2 console. And it's called the Antank, company I never heard of before. It's the Antank S3 Max dock station for the Nintendo Switch 2, which on Amazon, the same product, it's called CWQ for whatever reason, but the company confirmed to The Verge, yes, that listing on Amazon with a different name is actually still us.
Okay.
Weird story, but okay. This is a portable dock for the Nintendo Switch 2. It's a triangular shaped, slim bar, horizontal bar, where you just place your Nintendo Switch 2. Doesn't have a faceplate in the front. Doesn't have like an enclosure in the back. Actually prevents the Switch 2 fans, the vents at the bottom taking in air. But according to tests from The Verge, not only does this dock actually work with the Nintendo Switch 2, but the lack of airflow is not a problem. They ran Cyberpunk 2077 for an hour with the Nintendo Switch 2 dock, the official one, and the Antank dock, and they actually got lower temps with the third-party dock. And the speculation would be that because the dock is the Switch 2 console is not actually sandwiched in between two faceplates, you actually get more air happening around the entire console. And
so funny.
So, obviously, I placed an order for the Antank dock that is coming.
Of course you did.
Coming soon, shipped from China. It's coming at some point. I think I will try it. And then I will try to take it apart because I want to see if I can actually turn that triangular thing into an even smaller thing, which led me to a fascinating discovery. Folks on Reddit have already taken apart the Antank dock.
Of course they have.
And it seems like so they did some digging. They took a look at what's happening inside. It's based. I need to open this link because I don't remember. It's based on a motherboard called the Crontel CH, bunch of numbers. You don't need to care about this. And it looks like a relatively simple piece of PCB, right? It's not huge. It's got all the necessary components. It's converting DisplayPort to USB, obviously. But scrolling through the comments, I found this fascinating one 3 days ago. This date is important. From a commenter on Reddit saying, taking a look at what they're using for the DisplayPort signal, it looks like a similar chipset to what's inside the PlayStation 5 Slim. And the PlayStation 5 Slim supports VRR, virtual refresh rate, a variable refresh rate. Why is it? So this is 3 days ago. Why is it that the Nintendo Switch 2 dock doesn't support variable refresh rate? 3 days ago, this commenter was like, this seems strange because this chipset is very similar to the PlayStation 5 Slim one. which supports VRR, and this one doesn't. Did Nintendo actually lock VRR in firmware in the Switch 2 operating system? Fast forward to this morning. That person 3 days ago was correct, because The Verge did some more testing with the Switch 2 dock, got an extension cable, a female to male USB-C cord, plugged one end of this extension cable into the Switch 2 dock, connected the other end to a Steam Deck and an ROG Ally, and sure enough, if you plug it into a TV, it supports 4K, 120 hertz, and variable refresh rate. So that dock, the Nintendo Switch 2 dock, is capable of VRR, is capable of standard USB-C video signal, but the Switch 2 console and its operating system locked VRR on a TV so that you cannot use it with the Nintendo dock.
And isn't the implication, too, that I read that it's actually HDMI 2.1 and not 2.0?
The implication is that if this is, and you look at the teardowns and you look at the tests, the implication would be this dock is actually capable of HDMI 2.1 because you got 4K, 120 hertz, HDR, VRR. That's HDMI 2.1 in a nutshell, right?
Right.
If you recall, when the Nintendo Switch 2 was announced, Nintendo mistakenly said VRR is supported both on the internal screen and on a TV. Later, they retracted their statement saying, oh, no, sorry, that was a mistake. It's not supported on the TV. Digital Foundry, see, I went down this complete rabbit hole of this story. Digital Foundry, in their review, found that VRR support on the Switch 2 internal display is kind of flaky. You got some issues with juddering in some games, like Cyberpunk, for example. It's not the best implementation of VRR on a handheld, and people are speculating that because that implementation on the console itself is kind of flaky at the moment.
Oh, it would look a lot worse on a TV.
It would look a lot worse on a TV, and Nintendo said, well, maybe let's just lock it for now. But that dock, technically speaking, is capable of it.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating.
Now, there is in software as well on the Switch 2 a way to update the dock, right? So I'm wondering if at some point Nintendo will release a firmware update for both the Switch 2 and the dock that will unlock that entirely and say, like, now you're getting even more performance out of Tears of the Kingdom or what have you.
Yeah, and potentially fix whatever VRR problems are in there if they can do that in software as well and switch it over to the dock. Yeah, that's great. That's interesting.
So this is just a preamble to what I've done. Okay? So with all that knowledge in my possession, I thought, well, I still don't care. I still want to use my XR glasses with the Nintendo Switch 2. How do I do that? So, armed with all that knowledge, I started obviously going on Reddit and filtering comments by date. And I discovered something interesting. I don't think I've ever brought this to the show, but last year, in addition to my X-Real glasses, I also purchased and barely used, because of software bugs at the time, the Viture Pro XR glasses. Okay. Now, Viture is a similar company. They make glasses like X-Real, like Rokid, for example, is another company. Viture is sort of like, I think at the moment, Viture is the one company with the most interesting ecosystem, because in addition to glasses, they make a neckband, which is like a small computer that you wrap around your neck. I'm not kidding. They make a neckband that is actually like a small Android device that allows you to have like streaming apps and stuff, and then look at them with the glasses. They have a partnership with 8BitDo. They make both a version of the Ultimate controller, but they also make a version of the G8 controller. The one where you put your phone inside, where you put your phone inside, but also on the G8 controller, there is a USB-C video out port that allows you to plug in your Viture glasses into the GameStore controller. They have a really interesting ecosystem, and they command a bit of a premium price compared to other companies. But the key player in this case of all their accessories is the mobile dock. Now, the mobile dock that they make, and I'm going to grab it for you. The mobile dock is this thing, right? It looks like a battery pack because it is a battery pack. It's a 13,000 milliampere hour battery.
Oh, pretty good size.
With a main USB-C port that can be used for charging and input, and 2 additional USB-C ports that have a glasses symbol, plus HDMI in. The idea here is that this can serve as a power bank, but also it allowed you before the Switch 2 to plug in, I don't know, your Switch 1, your Steam Deck into USB-C or into HDMI, connect your glasses and play with the Switch 1 or Steam Deck or an ROG Ally with your glasses.
Are there 2 glasses ports because you can connect 2 pairs of glasses? Is that the idea?
The 2 people could theoretically
sit on a couch together and play a game together,
Yes, and be dorky together. Yes.
Yeah. That's really dorky.
Now if you took a look at the comments on Reddit in the Witcher community, you would have read a month ago that this thing didn't work with the Switch 2. And that was true because when I went down to storage and grabbed my mobile dock with the old firmware, and then I plugged in my Nintendo Switch 2, I got some errors with video signal. And when I got it to work for a few seconds, I saw the entire image. It was all red and orange. Really, really wrong.
Very Virtual Boy.
Very Virtual Boy. But as of a couple of weeks ago, there is a Switch 2 specific firmware that you can install on the mobile dock. And I'm pleased to tell you that Witcher, alongside N-Tank, is the only company that has reverse engineered the USB-C secret handshake method between the Switch 2 and the dock so that you can use this thing to play Nintendo Switch 2 with your glasses. And I'm going to do it right now. So, while I do that, I also want to bring to your attention a very special accessory that I purchased from Amazon. This is my Nintendo Switch 2, and you will see these grips.
Oh, look at that.
Really comfortable ergonomic grips. Now, I'm going to tell you the name, and I promise I'm not kidding. It's called the Savage Raven.
Okay. That's easy to remember.
The Savage Raven by Skull & Co. Neo Grip Bundle for Nintendo Switch 2. I'm still reading the title. An ergonomic grip hard shell handle case with replaceable grips. Parentheses to fit all ends. So, this is a thing where you have this structure in the back. This means you cannot detach your Joy-Cons anymore. So it's just for handheld usage. But boy, oh boy, does it make the Switch 2 a lot more comfortable to hold.
Is it easy to get on and off if you want to?
Yeah, there's a little tab that you need to slide here, and then you take off the entire thing. So I'm gonna unlock my Nintendo Switch 2. So now would be a great time to switch to the video version of NPC. As you can see, I've been playing Fantasy Life. Love the game.
Yeah, dude.
I am waiting for the Wavelengths review of Fantasy Life.
I started playing last night.
It's so good. Oh my god. So Nintendo Switch 2. Okay, I'm gonna do it live. So this is an Apple Thunderbolt 3 cable. Thunderbolt 4, sorry. Thunderbolt 4 is backwards compatible with USB-C video out. So I'm going to plug this into the bottom port of the Nintendo Switch 2, straight up. USB-C port, here we go. And I am going to plug this other end into the mobile dock. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, as I do this, there's a little handshake going on, and sure enough, the Nintendo Switch 2 has turned off.
Right.
Which is immediately a good sign.
Yes.
I am going to grab my Pro Controller, because obviously you cannot use the Joy-Cons when the Switch 2 is docked, right? The Switch 2 in this moment thinks, I am docked, you're not supposed to touch the console, so the Joy-Cons will not work. Okay. Next, and this is my favorite part, I'm going to take off my glasses. And I am going to do this. I am going to put on my Virtual XR
Such
glasses.
a good look. Such a good look.
I know, right? So
Yeah.
these are my glasses. All right. Do I look nice? I bet
Yeah, you
I
look
do.
great.
Plug it into one of the ports for the glasses. And I don't know if you can see it, but I am... Oh, let's see. I got to reconnect the cable because these things with USB are weird. I am doing this live on the show. Incredible. And I am looking at my Nintendo Switch 2 right now.
Oh,
I don't know if you
wow.
can see it. I don't know if you can see it.
No, not really.
Can you hear the music from here?
Yes. Yes, I can
Yeah.
hear the music.
So I don't know if you can see it in the glasses.
Not really. Maybe you take them off and turn around the glasses and see if you can. This camera
I can
picks it up.
try that. I can try that.
Let me see.
There you
Oh,
go.
yeah, I can-
There you go.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Inside,
I can kinda see it in
inside,
there.
there's Fantasy Life.
Yep, I can see it.
There's
So-
a whole life in there.
There's multiple lives, in fact.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So
So many. to
so
choose from.
oh, let me turn on this again for a bit. So as I was saying, that totally works. So right now,
Amazing.
you have a couple of options. If you have a Switch 2 and you want to get a third-party dock replacement, either
Yeah.
you go buy the N-Tank dock, which I did, and I will bring it to the show whenever it arrives on my doorstep. Or if you want to play with XR glasses, by far, right now, the most compact and travel-friendly and easy solution is this thing, the Viture mobile dock, which I'm going to
Yep.
unplug my Switch 2 because the glasses are still playing music.
I assume
Now-
that only works with the Viture glasses. Like
Aha.
you couldn't.
The final thing I will say. In NPC XL, I will talk about how I got my X-Real 1 glasses to work with the
Okay.
Nintendo Switch 2. I did try to plug in the X-Real 1 into the Viture dock, right? Because, I mean, sure, they're different brands, different companies, but USB-C
Yeah, but it's the same protocol.
USB-C is USB-C, right? Or at
Yeah.
least you would think so. Because it seems like X-Real took a page from Nintendo, and the X-Real 1 do not work with the Viture dock in the sense
Oh.
that they show you an image, but it's all orange.
Oh.
So there's some color profile mismatch going on. Also,
Yeah.
some additional tips if you want to buy the Viture glasses. There's an entire ecosystem of replacement nose pieces on Etsy. I do find the Viture to be a little too low on my face, and so right now I placed some regular glasses adhesive grips on the nose piece, but I have a custom nose piece from Etsy on order. Also, make sure that you switch the color profile of the Viture glasses from standard to vivid, because the standard color profile has got a bit of a yellowish tint going on.
What's the resolution of those glasses, Federico? Are they
1080p and 60 hertz. But on July 8th, Viture has a major announcement for their new glasses. I think I saw some rumors saying they're going to be called the Viture Luma. And rumor has it, these are going to be the first XR glasses with brand new micro OLED displays from Sony with 1440p and 120 hertz.
Oh, wow.
And cameras. So we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. But the final thing I will say, the X-Real 1 glasses don't work with this dock. But if you happen to have the older X-Real Air glasses, those will work. So if you have the original X-Real Air, you can. I think you will be able to plug them into the dock. And also, like, you want to try this? Get the dock from Amazon. And if it doesn't work, because Viture sells on Amazon, if it doesn't work, just return it. So you can play around with it. And that's it. In NPC XL, these experiments are going to take an even stranger turn.
Wow.
Can I? Okay. First of all, this is all very exciting. I love this. Can I poke the balloon with a pin real quick and just ask a question?
Yes.
That was implied by. First of all, shout out to Sean Hollister over at The Verge for all that reporting.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. He implied in that piece that at any moment Nintendo
Yes.
could update the handshake and the keys will change, and that could break anything that's hard coded into, for example, the Antec
Yes.
dock. Do we think there's a world in which there is a dock that can come out that will be able to update itself enough to be able to just like constantly match whatever Nintendo's doing? Like, I guess a better question, do we think Nintendo will proactively be changing those keys often enough for that to be an issue to prevent people from using third-party docks?
So I don't think there's a way to continuously check the keys that are exchanged between the console and the dock, so that a third-party dock can, short of modding a Nintendo Switch 2 and hacking a Nintendo Switch 2 console, I don't think there's going to be any way for a third-party dock to know that in advance.
Yeah,
so I think third-party manufacturers will be stuck with following Antank and Beecher and just releasing firmware upgrades to make sure that their accessories work with the Switch 2. Will Nintendo break these keys and change them periodically? Maybe, if they really want people to purchase their official dock.
That's the big question, right? Or is Nintendo doing this because they want to hide things like VRR behind firmware because it doesn't work well on the TV? Or are they doing it because they want to sell just Nintendo docks and authorized third-party docks? Right now, there are no authorized third-party docks out there. So will that come, and will this be a way of protecting that market? Or is this something else going on here? It's hard to tell at this point, I think.
Hard to tell.
Yeah. Because their dock is $120 US at the moment.
Yeah.
And that Antank dock is like 40.
Yeah, right. I mean, and we've been talking all around this, but the reason you want something other than the Nintendo dock is the Nintendo dock is huge. You don't want to take that with you when you're on vacation. You want something small and easy to put in your bag.
I was so scared packing the Nintendo Switch 2 dock to come home because I had to put the dock itself in my suitcase, which was like checked on the flight home. And I shoved socks in it. I wrapped it in 2 sweaters and then put it in between a bunch of other clothes. I was so nervous that it was going to get crushed in some way. And also, one of the things I brought with me on the trip was the Genki Convert dock, which works wonderfully with the Switch 1 and also works wonderfully with the ROG Ally X, which I brought with me. And pretty much every other device, like if I plug the Odin in here, I imagine that would work as well, although I haven't tried it. I should try that. But I was so bummed that this didn't work with the Switch 2. I would love to see something like this again for the Switch 2, but I don't know if that's in the cards. But maybe Federico will answer my question in XL.
Sadly, no.
Okay.
It's not about that. but the last thing I would say, it was glorious last night to be able to play Fantasy Life in bed without bothering my girlfriend sleeping next to me. That was cool. Because, obviously, I only see the light of the displays in front of my eyes, and she doesn't see anything. And the Pro Controller passes with flying colors my quiet test. It's so quiet, it's so comfortable. So, just laying down in bed, looking at the screen in front of me, I am now really looking forward to whatever announcement Witcher has for next week. So
I think it's quiet. I think that controller is quieter than even the Sony one myself.
It's up there. Yeah. So that's it.
I will say, quickly on that note, I was trying to I updated all my 8BitDo controllers to work with the Switch 2 yesterday when I got home. The 8BitDo Ultimate 2 still doesn't work with the Switch 2, which is very interesting. Yeah.
Oh, that's a bummer.
And there's no firmware update, and you also can't update it through the app, which I find very strange. So 8BitDo, get on that.
8BitDo's software for updating things is not the greatest.
It's pretty weird. Yeah. But there's a way, I mean, I think I talked about this on another episode of the show. I must have. But on Mac, you can download the 8BitDo software, like firmware updater. And if you switch it to beta updates, you'll get a bunch of Switch 2 updates. But there's also another option that's like manually update, and you just like plug your controller in, physically choose which controller you have plugged in if it's not recognizing it, and then you can force an update. But the 8BitDo Ultimate 2 is not even an option there, which I find very strange, especially considering one of the news items that we skipped over, but we'll make it to the newsletter, is they're like releasing new versions of the 8BitDo Ultimate 2 already. Weird. Very weird. Anyway, that wraps it up, right? That's it.
I think so. That's it for the main show. You can find us, as always, online Brendon's over at wavelengths.online, and Federico and I are over at macstories.net. And of course, all three of us are on social media. Just search for our names and you'll find us. Talk to you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.